everybody. Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. Judy, get that bug up there, will you? There you go. Guys, let's see. Today it's 9/11. Yeah, it's 14 years after the terrorist attack. It's 9/11/15. This is show number 107, and the name of the show is Oligarchy. Now, guys, you know, a lot of people have heard the term oligarchy, but a lot of people don't know what it means. And I mean, I asked my wife, and she said, honestly, I don't know. My future son-in-law, honestly, I don't know. I asked Dave at the studio. Honestly, he didn't know. I asked myself, I honestly didn't know. I mean, I knew it had to do with rich people and controlling the gut, but I never really pursued it. And guys, that's what we're gonna look at today. We're really gonna delve into it so that we can really answer what oligarchy really is. But initially, that's what this show, the whole show was gonna be about. But the show took several twists and turns with what's been going on, especially in politics lately. And guys, I know you're not gonna believe this, but Uncle Joey, my good buddy, my T-Billy T-Hottest up in Catskill, New York, and his website is not website, his Facebook page is Things to Ponder. So you can go on there and give him the old bada bing. But anyway, Joey admitted, on the last show, we had talked about Trumpism, and before that, we had talked about socialism. You know, and if you guys ever want to go watch any of these old shows, they're all up on YouTube. All right. So anyway, you know, we did the two shows like that, and then, you know, you start to listen to Bernie, and a lot of times he mentions oligarchy. And guys, so that's what I want to try to do tonight. I want to try to explain what it's about. But in the meantime, Uncle Joey looked up something that I said in the last show in regards to Bernie, and he made me a bet that if he lost the bet, he would put a nude selfie of himself on the internet. Well, look, I don't want to scare nobody, so we're not going to make him pay up by putting a nude selfie on. But I said, Joe, in order to pay the bet that you lost, why don't you let me go on to your Facebook page, Things to Ponder, without blocking me for a year. So guys, if you go on his Facebook page, he's not going to block me for a year, but hey, I saved you from seeing a nude selfie of Uncle Joe. So you guys should thank me for that. But also, in addition, you're not going to believe this. You know, guys, Dave Straight does a show, and his show is on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and it's a call-in show. And yours truly always calls in. And guys, he had on a doctor, a cardiologist, a respected cardiologist. And that cardiologist's name is Donald Evan Levine. And guys, I asked Dr. Levine about single payer and Medicare for all. And guys, when you find out what he had to say, we almost had to perform CPR on Dave Straight. Because when you hit these guys with facts, and when they hear that a noted doctor is in favor of socialized medicine, you could almost see Dave's head explode. He couldn't. And Dr. Evans said, look, Dave goes, look, I'm going to hurt your feelings, and I don't want to. Well, guys, guess what? Telling the truth does hurt people's feelings. And that's why the show is called Who's Telling the Truth. And that's all we want to do. You know, we want to try to separate all the bias and the BS. You know, and we want to give Fox News the old bada bing. Oh, and I tell you, tonight on tonight's show, we're going to do a clip about Kim Davis. You know, this is the clerk in Kentucky that refused to give out the gay licenses. And guys, I'm telling you, even Fox News is starting to say, wait a minute, this stuff is getting too deep for us. Even Fox News is starting to eat their own. And I mean, when you see what's happening with Sarah Palin and the other boneheads that are on Fox, you're going to say, hey, we need somebody like Bernie. But guys, I have to be honest with you. Out of all the people I asked about what an oligarchy is, Uncle Joe was the one guy that pretty much got it right. And Uncle Joe said that an oligarchy is where few are in charge of many. And Judy, let's go to still number one now, just to confirm what Uncle Joey has confirmed. So there we go. And guys, here's a dictionary definition. Oligarchy, a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. The ruling oligarchy of military men around the president. A country governed by an oligarchy. Government by oligarchy. So guys, Judy, can you come back to me? So guys, now you saw the strict definition. You know what my definition is? Try to keep it simple. Greed. When you think of oligarchy, make it simple. It's greed. That's what it is. And tonight, we're going to prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt. Really. So a lot of the conservatives, like Marty, and I got to tell you, I called in on Marty's show, and Representative Dan Carter was on Marty's show, and I said to him, Dan, when it comes to single payer, let's pretend that the House and the Senate and all the people in politics are evenly divided, and you're the decision-casting vote. Whatever you vote is going to determine whether we have single payer or whether we have paid insurance. Guys, you know what his answer was? He would rather see people thrown out into the street. He wants to have nothing to do with single payer. He wants nothing to do with Obama. He wants nothing to do with the citizens of this country. And he's a Republican representative. Guess who we're going to have fun with this election season? Dan, have fun up in Hartford, because you won't be there next year. And I'm going to make it a point. And you know why? Because of the stupid stuff that you say. And the fact that you're on TV saying it, and guess what? You can't take it back. That's why we always talk about publishing stuff here. Once it's put in print, and tonight we're going to show you, because Uncle Joe put his response in print, and you're going to be able to read it. You go, wow, okay, Uncle Joe's starting to come around. But anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun. So anyway, getting back with Bernie, and guys, you know, there are moments, political moments that you just never seem to forget. And we're going to hit you with one now from Bernie, and this is a Bernie moment, very, very short. But listen carefully to what he has to say. Judy, clip number 2.
Red alert, everybody.
Somebody is wrong on the internet, and we are not going to stand for this.
Time to bring on the big guns.
Hey everyone, Lacey Green here for D-News with a special guest host, Dr. Karen Bondar. We're so happy to have you here on D-News, Karen.
Oh, it's awesome to be here. Thanks.
Of course, thanks for joining us. So I want to know, have you ever been in a debate?
Oh, yeah. Have you?
Yeah. I mean, we work on the internet, right? It's kind of hard to avoid. So recently, a study coming out of Dartmouth sought to figure out the best way to convince someone that they're wrong, oh so wrong.
And what's the one place that people hold on to their beliefs the most? Yeah, it would be politics. It's an area of debate that is susceptible to something called disconfirmation bias, or the tendency to deny information that conflicts with our pre-existing beliefs.
So to figure out how best to convince someone of the facts, they tried to persuade those who call themselves liberals that Bush's Iraqi surge had prevented further violence, and to persuade conservatives that more jobs have been created under Obama.
What they found was very interesting. Researchers tried to convince the participants by trying a few different methods. First, presenting the facts out loud, then in a text paragraph, and finally, with a chart.
So verbalizing the facts out loud was the least effective. People saw the facts as up for debate and responded with verbal counterarguments.
The text was also similarly ineffective, but the charts.
Them charts. When presented with a chart or a graph where the facts were explained visually, people were much more likely to accept the information that conflicted with their former beliefs, and they were less likely to argue about it. So you know what this means, right?
Charts all day, baby.
Heck yeah, arguing with your parents? Boom, charts.
In a Facebook debate during those elections, pull out the charts.
Really hate someone and just want to prove them wrong? Charts on charts on charts.
These researchers speculate that the reason the human brain and ego responds better to visual information is because it's our native language. The area of your brain that processes visuals is larger and more developed than the area that processes words.
So when we hear verbal information, like right now, for instance, our brain has to work harder to understand and remember the information. You're more likely to forget what was said and all the little details. So just so we all remember this, can we get a chart up in here, please?
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining us for D-News, folks. What's your favorite debate strategy?
Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more D-News.
See you next time.
Okay, guys, so we just had a learning moment in the studio. You know, I kind of changed things around, and Kurt turned down the microphone and the control room couldn't hear me. So let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Hey, guys, what are we gonna do? It's live and we try our best, and you know. But anyway, what I was trying to get to, you know, I wanted to bring up video number 1 because I wanted to show you exactly, you know, we get those moments where, like, there's one moment I'm sure you can remember where President Kennedy gave one of his most prolific political statements ever spoken. And, you know, keep that in the back of your mind for a minute, because we're going to play video number 1 now. Video number 2. And this is going to be what we call a Bernie moment, a very low-keyed JFK moment. So, Judy, let's have number 2.
No great nation can flourish when so few have so much and so many have so little.
Guys, what could be clearer than that? No great nation can flourish when so few have so much and so many have so little. And that's what's happening in this country. And the clip that we showed before this was on charts. And guys, tonight we're gonna show you charts on top of charts on top of charts, so that what happens is visually, you get the visual stimulation of the chart. And guys, most of the charts are as plain as the nose on my face, so you can't miss them. All right, so we had the one clip from Bernie. Now we're gonna play clip number 3, which is gonna be from JFK. So Judy, hit it.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Guys, you want to know what you can do for your country? You can become active, and most importantly, you can vote. But I mean, you see, this is more or less a call to arms. Judy, can we have clip number 2 again? Just listen to how beautifully Bernie put this. Clip number 2.
No great nation can flourish when so few have so much and so many have so little.
Judy, once again, let's hit the JFK clip, and then we're going to go to the 05 still of our buddies, the Koch brothers.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Now, Judy, if you bring up the neck, there you go. So, guys, here's our buddies, the Koch brothers, and what are they asking for? Ask how much your country can do for you and how little you can do in return. And, Judy, if you come back to me, that's the way these guys are. Every man for themselves. They inherited their money. And it's gotten to the point where they're so far right. When you know, after tonight's show, you're going to go, wow, Rich, I never really realized that two people could have such an influence on how the country operates. But guys, it's true. And we're just going to keep pouring it on tonight, and we're just going to show you, I mean, video after video. And in the next video, we're going to let Bernie explain what oligarchy is. So, Judy, let's have clip number 4. Nope, you went to still. We want to go to clip number 4.
But at the end of the day, what we are really talking about is whether or not this nation is going to become an oligarchic form of society. And what that means, what an oligarchic form of society is about, and it has existed in many countries throughout the world, historically many countries in Latin America, although that has recently changed, is you have a nation in which both the economics and politics of the nation are controlled by a handful of billionaire families, very, very wealthy. And it doesn't matter what party is in power, because the real power, economically and politically, rests with a billionaire class. And, Mr. President, it seems to me very clearly that unless we act boldly to reverse that trend, we are seeing this country moving in exactly that direction. And one of the reasons for that is that as a result of the disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court ruling, which regards corporations as people and allows the super wealthy to spend as much as they want on elections, the billionaire party, which is obviously aligned with the Republicans, is now, in fact, the major political force in this country. It's not the Republican Party per se. It is not the Democratic Party per se. It is the billionaire party led by people like the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson.
Led by the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson. And you guys, they don't care. They don't care. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. And what they do is they get people like Marty and Dave Straight and Uncle Joey, and they trick them. They trick them, and they get their minds so involved with stupid stuff like Planned Parenthood, the Iran deal that just went through. These guys are beside themselves. You know, here we have diplomacy, and instead of enjoying it, no, they want war. Why? And Uncle Joey's kids in the service. You would think that Joey would want peace. You don't want your kid coming back with PSTD or whatever it is, thinking he's a goofball. You know, war is not good for people. Blowing stuff up is not good. You know, we should have those kids here putting up solar panels on the roofs, putting up wind turbines instead of blowing stuff up. All right, but we're still going to just keep forging ahead. And guys, the next clip is from Bill. I believe the next clip is number 6, and it's going to be, it's either 6 or 7. Judy, I'm mixed up. So you know what? Just play the next one.
In America today,
We have a political system in which one family, the Koch
We need
brothers,
some volume out
the
here.
second wealthiest family in America,
Good, thank you.
will be spending more money, some $900 million in this campaign cycle, more money in this election than either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. When you have one family, an extreme right-wing billionaire family, spending more money than either of the two major political parties, brothers and sisters, that is not what democracy is about. That is what oligarchy is about, and we have got to not let that happen.
You know, guys, to call myself a socialist was very difficult, you know, because it's been ingrained, we've been indoctrinated that socialism is not good. Only capitalism is good. So, you know, it's been ingrained, you know, that socialism is bad. And also, Bernie said, brothers and sisters, you know? To me, that almost sounds Marxist. So you know what? I got to tell Bernie in the future, when you go to use the term brothers and sisters, keep it going. Brothers and sisters, uncles and aunts, cousins, any human being that breathes. We want you to get in on the grassroots movement and join us. So Bernie, it's going to take a little time because like I said, sometimes we've been so indoctrinated, it's hard to be honest with ourselves. You know, just like with Dave Straight, it was hard for him to accept the fact that socialized medicine is good for us. Can't do it. Why? Because he took the Pledge of Allegiance to the Republican Party and for the policies for which they stand. One nation under billionaires. And that's the way the conservatives are. All right, so the next clip is going to be from Bill Moyers. And guys, this is just more data, more facts, just to show you what's going on in this country. So Judy, number 7, please.
The evidence keeps mounting. Just this past Tuesday, the 15th of April, tax day, the AFL-CIO reported that last year, the chief executive officers of 350 top American corporations were paid 331 times more money than the average U.S. worker. Those executives made an average of $11.7 million compared to the average worker who earned $35,239. As that analysis circulated on tax day, the economist Robert Reich reminded us that in addition to getting the largest percent of total national income in nearly a century, many in the 1% are paying a lower federal tax rate than a lot of people in the middle class. You will no doubt remember that an obliging Congress of both parties allows high rollers of finance the privilege of carried interest, a tax rate below that of their secretaries and clerks. And at state and local levels, while the poorest 20% of Americans pay an average tax rate of over 11%, the richest 1% of the country pays half that rate. Now, neither nature nor nature's God drew up our tax codes. That's the work of legislators, politicians, and it's one way they have, as Chief Justice John Roberts might put it, of expressing gratitude to their donors. Oh, Mr. Adelson, we so appreciate your generosity that we cut your estate taxes so you can give $8 billion as a tax-free payment to your heirs, even though down the road the public will have to put up $2.8 billion to compensate for the loss in tax revenues. All of which makes truly repugnant the argument heard so often from courtiers of the rich that inequality doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Inequality is what has turned Washington into a protection racket for the 1%. It buys all those goodies from government, tax breaks, tax havens, allowing corporations and the rich to park their money in a no-tax zone, loopholes, favors like carried interest, and on and on and on. Listen, there's a big study coming out in the fall from Martin Gillens at Princeton and Benjamin Page at Northwestern, based on data collected between 1981 and 2002. Their conclusion, quote, America's claims to being a democratic society are seriously threatened the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. Sad that it's come to this. The drift toward oligarchy that Thomas Piketty describes in his formidable book has become a mad dash, and it will overrun us and overwhelm us unless we stop it.
Guys, that's the idea, to stop it. And you know, first of all, the biggest idea is to understand what's going on. Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, you hear stuff like this and you say, no, that can't be true. That can't be true. But guys, when you get these politicians that have been bought, they've been bought and paid for, and they have to vote the way the owners and their handlers tell them to vote. And that's why nothing gets done. You know, you see these extremists. I mean, these guys, they're off the edge. They're over the edge. They're gone. And the next clip, we're going to show Bernie is going to explain wealth inequality. And guys, this is when we're going to let Judy have some fun, because she's got full reins over all the charts that we're going to put on. As Bernie's talking, we're going to show you different charts, and I want you to take a good look at the charts and take a look at the sources, because that's the most important thing when it comes to, when it comes to anything. You know, and we did show number 104, cite your source. Because guys, a lot of the sources that you're going to see are from the Congressional Budget Office. I mean, verifiable stuff. Not the stuff that you hear on Fox News, where somebody just makes something up and they hope it sticks. We're going to show you charts, and we're going to let Judy have her discretion, and she can fade in and out, and she can have as much fun as she wants. So Judy, let's hear Bernie and wealth inequality, and have some fun.
Next week, we will be celebrating the 4th of July, the day when the founders of this country declared independence from what they viewed as a tyrannical aristocracy in England.
Can you get me more volume?
Yet today, in many respects, the tyrannical aristocracy is no longer a foreign power, but a billionaire class which now has unprecedented economic and political power over the American people. In fact, if we do not make the necessary changes to reduce skyrocketing wealth and income inequality, this country, in my view, is well on its way to becoming an oligarchic form of society, a nation in which a handful of extremely wealthy people control not only our economy, but our political life as well. Let's be clear. The United States is the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, but the vast majority of our people don't sense that, don't feel that, because almost all of the wealth is concentrated in the hands of the few. In the year 2015, the U.S. has by far the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major developed country on earth, and this inequality is worse today than at any time since 1928. We are moving in exactly the wrong direction. The fact of the matter is that over the past 40 years, we have witnessed an enormous transfer of wealth from the middle class and working families of our country to multimillionaires and billionaires. Now, my Republican colleagues often express their fear about wealth distribution. In fact, that is exactly what has been happening over the last 30 years. There has been a massive transfer of wealth, but it has gone from the middle class and working families to the people at the top. According to the most recent statistics, and this chart makes it pretty clear, the share of the nation's wealth going to the bottom 90% of Americans has gone down from 36% in 1985 to just 22.8% in 2013. Meanwhile, over the same time period, the top 0.1% saw its share of the nation's wealth more than double, going from 10% in 1985 to 22% today. In other words, the top 0.1% own nearly as much wealth as the bottom 90% of Americans. That is an extraordinary and tragic reality. In the last 2 years, I want you to picture this, in the last 2 years, the wealthiest 15 people in this country, 15 people, about what's sitting in this room right now, saw an increase in their wealth by $170 billion. Increase in wealth in 2 years, $170 billion. That is more wealth that is owned collectively by the bottom 130 million Americans. Today, the wealthiest family in this country, the Walton family, is now worth more than the bottom 42% of the American people. In terms of income, not wealth, income, the top 1% earns more than the bottom 50%. Since the Great Recession of 2008, 99% of all new income is now going to the top 1%. At a time when the rich are getting richer and when almost all new income and wealth is going to the people on top, how have my Republican colleagues responded to this grotesque level of income and wealth inequality? Well, what they have done, unbelievably, is to pass legislation which provides a $269 billion tax break to the wealthiest 5,400 Americans in this country, the top 0.2%. So in the midst of massive wealth and inequality, what the Republicans have said is, oh, let us give the very, very, very wealthiest people a gigantic tax break. And they do this by completely repealing the estate tax. Now, in my view, this is wrong morally. We should not exacerbate income and wealth inequality when it is so bad today. It is wrong economically. We do not need to be putting more money into the hands of the very richest people in this country while the middle class continues to decline. Okay. But this is not just what Bernie Sanders believes or what Jan Schakowsky believes. More than a century ago, President Teddy Roosevelt, a good Republican, fought for the creation of a progressive estate tax in order to reduce the enormous concentration of wealth that existed during the Gilded Age. And this is what President Teddy Roosevelt said about 100 years ago, quote, "The absence of effective state and especially national restraint upon unfair money getting has tended to create a small class of enormously wealthy and economically powerful men whose chief object is to hold and increase their power. The prime need is to change the conditions which enable these men to accumulate power. Therefore, I believe in a graduated inheritance tax on big fortunes, properly safeguarded against evasion and increasing rapidly in amount with the size of the estate." End of quote, Teddy Roosevelt. You don't hear too many Republicans speaking that language today.
I mean, if we're only going to block them out for a few
Roosevelt
seconds,
spoke those words in 1910, they are even more relevant today. Income and wealth inequality, in my view, is the great moral issue of our time. It is the great economic issue of our time. And as a result of Citizens United, it is the great political issue of our time. No great nation can flourish when so few have so much and so many have so little. Now, one of the straightforward ways to address wealth inequality, invest in the disappearing middle class, and preserve our democracy is to enact a progressive estate tax on multimillionaires and billionaires. As you know, for almost 100 years, this country has had an estate tax on the books that only taxes the inheritances of the very wealthiest people in this country. Today, that tax only applies to the wealthiest 0.2%. And my Republican colleagues, who are so anxious to protect the interests of the wealthy and the powerful, they want to eliminate that. But I think we should move in a very different direction. And that is why along with Congresswoman Schakowsky, I am introducing the Responsible Estate Tax Act. This legislation, which only applies to the top 0.3%, 99.7% of people will not pay a nickel more in taxes, includes a progressive estate tax structure so that the super wealthy pay more. And this includes a progressive estate tax rate structure so that the super wealthy pay more. It establishes a 10% surtax on billionaires. It closes estate tax loopholes that have allowed the wealthy to avoid billions in estate taxes. It exempts the first $3.5 million of an estate from federal taxation, $7 million for couples. So with that, let me introduce somebody who has been one of the strongest advocates for working families in the U.S. House, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky.
All right, so guys, what did you think about our first foray into introducing graphs with the speech? And guys, if we would have done this, if we would have coordinated better, we could have done a much better job. But the point that I want to make, and it's so important, when you show a visual chart, you know, just like the girl said, when somebody can see something, you know, it's like the old saying, I'm from Missouri, show me. When you show somebody something and they ignore it, guess what? Well, you got people like Marty and Dave and Uncle Joe, but that's what we're stuck with. So guys, now I told you that Uncle Joe apologized because he called me out and he said that what I said on the last show about Bernie Sanders wasn't true. So Judy, let's show this is still number 9. This is the Bernie Sanders quote that Uncle Joey called me out on. And guys, this says, right now, billionaires pay into Social Security Trust Fund the same amount of money as somebody making $110,000 a year. And if we lift the cap to $250,000, if we just do that, Social Security will be solvent for the next 75 years. So Judy, come back to me now. So guys, Uncle Joey called me out, but he really called Bernie out. And he did his research. And guys, at least Joey was man enough to admit that he was wrong. And he said, because he was wrong, he was going to pose a nude selfie of himself. Well, please, I don't want to scare anybody. So I made an agreement where I can go on his Things to Ponder site. But now we're going to show you, and first I got to bring this up on my computer so I can read it as well. But first we're going to show you a quick. All right, Judy, can you bring up number 10 now? Yeah. And see, Joe, guys, the last couple of shows, socialism, we had almost 500 hits. And our last show, we had 200 hits. So, I mean, I'm really starting to get proud of the fact that we're starting to draw an audience and people appreciate. You know, and Judy, can you put the Facebook crawl back up so people can see? Up, and there goes my phone. Oh, brother. Hi, honey, we're on the air. Do you want to say hello to everybody? That was a no. Guys, we were supposed to be done already. I was supposed to pick her up. I'm in trouble. All right, but anyway. So we're talking about Uncle Joey. And he said he gets 3,000 views a day. So I said, Joey, you have a YouTube channel? And of course he said, let's see. So he said, so I said to him, you really are delusional, aren't you? But that's par for the course. You're one of the best liars on the net. Your kids lose, sorry. And guys, I always say his kids are gonna lose because he's a climate denier. And I say, Joey, your kids are going to pay for your ignorance. And it's sad, you know, and I hate to say something, but it's true. Because when you ignore science and you're a denier and you're doing it for one thing, for the Republican Party, there's something wrong. And you're only hurting your kids, but you don't care. You care more about your pledge of allegiance to the Republican Party. So anyway, Joey tries to tell me that he's got a hit counter, and then he said, that aside, I have to say, Judy, can you go back to I think this is number 10 again. I called you out on your Bernie crap from the last show. I did some research, and what he said is correct. I lost the bet, and I will pay up. I never took a selfie, but will try. I'm a man of my word. P.S. He said to me, I'm a butthole. So that's okay. You know what I mean? All right, so now we're going to go to the last clip. So you could already see Joey manned up and he said, you know, Bernie's right. And if we increase Social Security, and I answered him, I said, Joey, I'm in shock. This is an historic day. You admit that everything I claimed that Bernie said was true was in fact true, correct? What a novel idea to tell the truth. Joe, when everyone realizes that Bernie has been singing the same song and telling the truth for over 40 years, they will vote for him. When you realize how hard Bernie has worked to support your son and the VA, you will vote for him. Guys, Judy, can you come back to me? Guys, Joey's son is in the service, and he's headed for the Middle East. All right, now let's go back to the last part of that. I want to read the last part, all right? And you will vote for him. When you learn how to read a thermometer, you will vote for Bernie. And guys, I said, Joe, Bernie understands science. When you begin to understand science, you'll vote for Bernie. Judy, come back to me. And guys, it's so true. When Uncle Joe called me on the one thing and he found out that Bernie was right. Guys, Bernie always tells the truth. And that's what's so novel about Bernie. He doesn't BS you. He tells you what he's going to do, and he does it. And he does it in a dignified way. He doesn't pull any punches. He doesn't try to give you the double reverse. He doesn't employ a bunch of foxtitudes to create doubt and all this other stuff that makes everybody so crazy. So guys, when you start realizing that Bernie is really valid and that socialism is not the end of the world, I tell you what, in 180 seconds, this next clip, after you watch this, you're going to vote for Bernie. So Judy, let's have video number 12.
Order. The senator from Vermont is recognized for 30 minutes.
Judy, what number? Is this number 12?
Let me begin not by talking about my amendment, but by
Judy, is this number 12?
Here's the simple truth, that in America we have millions and millions of working people who are working hard but are not making enough money to put bread on the table or to take care of their kids, and that has got to end. Today, all over America, you got mom working, you got dad working, occasionally you have the kids working, and we still don't have enough money to pay the bills. Something is fundamentally wrong about that.
All right.
The problems we face did not come down from the heavens. They are made by bad human decisions. And good human decisions can change them. It is time that the United States of America join the rest of the industrialized world and guaranteed health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. Given the incredible wealth and income inequality in America today, we need fair elections, which means public funding of elections.
my Republican friends just decided to put another $38 billion into the military. Maybe we can cut military spending a little bit and put it into education. 100 years ago, women didn't even have the right to vote. Change takes place because people struggle. Within the next month, I will introduce legislation that will make every public college and public university tuition free. I am in this business because I have 4 beautiful kids and I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. And like you, I want to make sure that the world that we leave them is a beautiful world where people can live full and dignified lives. I don't want to see a world where people are struggling and stepping all over each other. And we can do it. We can provide health care to all of our people. We can create decent paying jobs. We can reverse climate change and transform our energy system. We can raise wages. We can make sure that every person in this country gets the education they need and desire. This is not some type of utopian dream. It can happen. It really can. But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations. Let's do it.
All right. Gonna vote for him? I mean, how can you argue with him? It's all just sound logic. You know, it's stuff that we've been bamboozled about for so long. And guys, you know, Bernie seems calm, cool, and collected. But when it comes to single payer and Medicare for all, when he gets pissed, and especially when he gets pissed at the Republican Party, and guys, I'm telling you, when it comes to the old bada bing, he's as good as Muhammad Ali was, and he doesn't stop. And that's why I'm so proud to say I'm behind him, because everything he says just makes sense. But let's see what happens when this old hippie gets his hair going and starts screaming on the floor of the Senate. So, Judy, let's have clip number 13.
The senator from Vermont is recognized for 30 minutes.
Mr. President, let me begin not by talking about my amendment, but by talking about Republican action right here on the floor of the Senate. Everybody in this country understands that our nation faces a significant number of major crises, whether it's the disintegration of our health care system, the fact that 17% of our people are unemployed or underemployed, 1 out of 4 of our children are living in food stamps. We've got 2 wars, we got global warming, we have a $12 trillion national debt, and the best the Republicans can do is try to bring the United States government to a halt by forcing a reading of a 700-page amendment. That is an outrage. People can have honest disagreements, but in this moment of crisis, it is wrong to bring the United States government to a halt. Now, Mr. President, I am very disturbed that I am unable to bring the amendment that I wanted to bring to the floor of the Senate dealing with a Medicare for All single-payer program. I want to thank Senator Reid for allowing me to try to bring this amendment to the floor before it was obstructed to and delayed and prevented by the Republican leadership. But I did want to mention that this legislation is co-sponsored by Senators Sherrod Brown and Roland Burris, and I was more than aware and very proud that this amendment would have been the first time in American history that a Medicare for All single-payer bill was brought before a floor of Congress. I was more than aware that that amendment would not win. I knew that. But I am absolutely convinced that this legislation or legislation like it will eventually become the law of the land. And the reason for my optimism that a Medicare for all single-payer bill will eventually prevail is that that will be and is the only mechanism we have to provide comprehensive, high-quality health care to all of our people in a cost-effective way, because it is the only approach which eliminates the hundreds of billions of dollars in waste, administrative costs, bureaucracy, and profiteering that is engendered by the private insurance companies, and that is the simple truth. We are not going to provide comprehensive, universal, cost-effective health care to all of our people without eliminating the hundreds of billions of dollars in bureaucratic waste and profiteering that currently takes place and is engendered by the private insurance companies. The day will come, although I recognize it is not today, when the United States Congress will have the courage to stand up to the private insurance.
Guys, the day is here. It's gotten to the point. Oh, if you go back to show number 101, we did Bada Bing Bernie. I mean, well, he doesn't stop. But that's what we want. We want somebody that's going to lead this country, and I mean take no prisoners. And guys, you know, when it comes to single payer and health care, I was talking with my wife, and I didn't quite understand what single payer was. And my wife said to me, she goes, well, you know, we have so many different payers that a lot of times, you know, if the doctor said that, we want a Medicare for all single payer, she's in the bill. She's in the doctor's office in the billing department, and she says, Rich, there's so many different types of payers. There's Blue Cross, there's Blue Shield, there's there's different companies. You know, there's I forgot all the, but all these. So what they do is they call these insurance companies payers because they're paying the bill. But guys, when I want to, let's say I need an operation on my arm, and I want to call the insurance company to find out if I'm covered. I don't say, well, I got to call my payer to find out if I'm covered. No, I say I got to call my insurance company. So I always thought that a payer was something completely different than somebody paying the bill. And like my wife says, Rich, with Medicare, it's so simple. She goes, there's one rate, there's one charge, the doctor knows exactly what he's getting paid. When he submits the bills, she goes, we don't have to jump through hoops. We don't have to look up different codes and submit things differently, and they get She goes, Medicare is so much easier, and like Bernie says, that's where the cost savings comes in. Because when you group everybody together and you put everybody in the same bucket with the same fees, and everything is fair and balanced, and the table isn't tilted, everybody's even. This is the way to go about it, guys. And we're going to show you more because, you know, Bernie says, you know, in order to get the single payer, how is this going to happen? And guys, he'll look you right in the eye and he'll tell you exactly how it's going to happen. We're going to raise your taxes. And of course, I could just see Marty and Dave straightening. See, you guys are going to raise our taxes. That's right. We're going to raise your taxes, but we're going to lower the cost. And here's how we're going to do it. So, Judy, let's have number 14.
So the goal is to guarantee health care to all Americans as a right, as virtually every other major country does, and then do it in a cost-effective way. A lot of ways you can guarantee health care to people. Do it in a cost-effective way. The best approach, to my mind, the end result would be, in my mind, a Medicare for all single-payer program administered at the statewide level, kind of a variation of what goes on in Canada.
Last question.
Sure, quick.
And you would pay for that how? With a tax increase?
Yes. Well, but here's the point. I mean, this is where, because I've been the subject of these ads. Yes, of course, taxes would go up to pay for health care, but you know what would go down? Private insurance. You would not be paying private insurance. So if I said to you, well, you're not going to pay, Blue Cross $12,000 a year, but you're going to pay $10,000 more in taxes, are you going to be crying? No, that's a positive for you. What distinguishes us, all of the healthcare systems around the world are different. They really are. Canadians, very different than the British, different than the Scandinavian model. But the one distinguishing factor in our country is that we allow private, for-profit health insurance companies to play a major role. That distinguishes us from every other country. And I think it explains why we spend so much for relatively little value.
And guys, that's it. The reason why we spend so much for healthcare is because it's a for-profit system. You can't have profit in healthcare. You can't hope somebody gets sicker so you can make more money. This can't be. You know what I mean? And guys, you heard Bernie said, yeah, we're going to raise your taxes. We're going to raise your taxes by $10,000, but we're going to save you $12,000 on your private insurance that you don't have to have anymore. So your net gain as a consumer is $2,000 a year. Guys, we all benefit, but of course the Koch brothers don't want anybody to benefit. They don't want to share, they don't want to pay their fair share of anything. They want to be able to use the roads and all the internet and everything that we've built and constructed. They want to use it for free. Judy, I guess we're almost out of time, huh? But the last clip we wanted to go out with, guys, is more on single payer. And this is, Judy, how much time do we have left?
1 minute.
1 minute. Well, if we only have 1 minute, I guess I might as well just keep talking then rather than start the next clip. But guys, once again, people say, well, Rich, why do you do the show? I do the show so that I can find out what's true. And you got guys like Marty and Dave Straight, they don't care. They've taken that Pledge of Allegiance to the Republican Party. And with Dan Carter, the Republican representative, when I asked him about global warming, he's a climate denier. And how in the world you can be a climate denier when you're able to access Google and NASA and NOAA and the National Academy of Sciences and all these places where you can find out what's true. But guys, they don't want to know what's true. The only thing that conservatives want is confirmation of exactly what they believe. They don't want to know anything else. Don't upset the apple cart. Don't try to tell me something I got to think about. I don't want to think. I just want...
Say goodbye, Rich.
I got to say goodbye, guys. Next week, we hope we'll be able to do the show without any mistakes. But hey, this is live TV, guys. It was a pleasure. We'll see you next week. Toodles.